God forbid you were paraplegic, how would you get around if there were no wheels? How would any of the farmers in the world be able to produce as much food as they do if they didn't have tractors or fancy plowing machines? The invention of the wheel is one of the most necessary inventions that society has come up with. It dates back all the way to ancient history because even back then they realized we need to get around. That's got to be a faster way to do all of these things. And if it wasn't for the wheels, there wouldn't be wheelchairs, there wouldn't be tractors for farmers, and society would not survive as long as it does. Lifespans would be so much shorter. Wheels date back to ancient history, and it made way for mankind to make more inventions. Basically, before the wheel, I mean, if you were paraplegic, you basically couldn't get around on your own. According to Family Guy, you couldn't get around without getting hurt anyway. Paraplegics basically meant you weren't independent anymore. Farming basically meant you were probably only going to live to be like in your late 20s or 30s. The human body can only sustain so much, and they must have realized back in BC that we needed a better way of doing things. According to Britannica Concise Encyclopedia, the wheel came about in 3500 BC in Mesopotamia. The first was a pottery turntable. Basically made it easier for them to make even pots, for them to store such things that they might need. The second was the spoked wheel. It came about in 2000 BC for things like chariots. Of course, it needed the axle to go with it, but it was still a major breakthrough. People were farming and herding by the time the wheel was invented, but it was obviously very difficult and very low production rates. An article from a journal called the Professional Engineering, did a study which came out to prove that the top 5 most important inventions were the wheel, the microchip, the internal combustion engine, printing press, and the phone. Transporting was nearly impossible before the wheel was invented, and it has benefited so many people, pretty much everyone that lives on Earth. Anyone without the use of their legs is probably one of the most grateful for the wheelchair, for the wheel. And Phil's physical therapist Ginger Walls wrote an article about the subject and how it benefits mankind. She found that the wheelchair dates back to about 500 BC, which is still very early, and it just helped these people in so many ways. And they're now way more independent and can do things on their own and don't feel like they're hindered from the fact that they can't walk. And could you imagine if farmers did not have the wheel? Basically, our population has been growing for years, and if we didn't have all of the food that farmers produce, and we weren't able to produce as fast as we could and live as long as we do, society would not be the place that it is today. So, I would like for you to take back with you today all of these facts and share them with others. Tell others that we need to keep these inventions more heavily in our minds, and that they are vital to society, and just convince others like I hope I've convinced you today. Thank you.